How has your relationship and understanding and experience with the media evolved from then to now?
Look, I would define my relationship with the media over the last one decade of my being in public life as kuch khatta, kuch meetha. It's been a mix of both. And the journey started when I was, I think, only all of 22 or 21. When at that point in time, I didn't even get a full beard. And news anchors as well as co-panelists never took me seriously. So from that day to being a member of parliament in the upper house has been quite a journey. And I think I have also seen media over the last one decade evolve and change. Whether it's change for the good or change for the bad, that is of course something that's up for debate, and the jury is out on it. But the relationship has, as I said, has been khatta meetha. There have been times when media has been indulgent, media has been impartial, independent, objective, and there have of course been times when media essentially vis-a-vis our case, and I'm speaking from personal experience, performs the duty of not that of a watchdog, but that of a bloodhound. And I've seen, I think, both extremes, both sides of the spectrum. Yeah.
But Raghav, you know, having watched the evolution of the Aam Aadmi Party, it's literally a revelation that has happened in the past decade. But there was once a energetic activist, Arvind Kejriwal, who was given a lot of exposure by the media. And it's the media who amplified his causes and did make a contribution to who he is today.
Look, there have been times in this country where pressure groups and social movements have got a lot of attention of the media. And that section of media, most certainly, that represented the sentiment of the people. And as a result, of course, since you refer to my leader, Mr. Kejriwal, as an activist in his earlier avatar, of course, during the India Against Corruption days, there was reportage and coverage around the movement and the cause of the movement. And that was primarily because it resonated with the people. It was something that the people also felt that was being echoed. And the cause of the movement met the cause of the people. However, when we became a political party, and let me disabuse you of this notion, we received perhaps the first and the worst media blackout. In our 49-day first government in the year 2013, you would remember, and if we were to rewind back to the December of 2013, you would find that my leader, the Chief Minister of Delhi, at that point in time, had registered an FIR against a leading industrialist of this country. He had shot off a letter to his anti-corruption branch, and a FIR subsequently was registered. As a result, that leading industrialist, who's also a big media baron, ensured that Aam Aadmi Party and the government of Delhi is blacked out from the media. So the 2015 election that we fought was despite the media blackout and in spite of no media coverage. So despite and in spite the media, through sheer grassroots support and political electoral hard work at the ground, we could come back with the highest ever majority that any political party has received.
Well, in a democracy, that's what matters. But it's an evolutionary thing, as I'm sure the party's been evolving. What is your assessment? Is there a neutral media? Is there a right, left, and center of media? But overall, does it give a balanced approach?
Look, to say that there is a section of media that is tilted towards the left, there is a section of media that is tilted towards the right, etc., essentially showcases that rather than putting facts, events, and news, opinions are being put forward. And as a result, having opinions is also not a bad thing. Every journalist can have an opinion. Every newsroom can have an opinion. But when that opinion, unfortunately, transforms into indoctrination, that is where the problem begins. and when agenda is driven, when propaganda is unleashed with the intent of indoctrinating people or manufacturing opinion at the mass level, that is where the problem begins, and that is what I feel a section of media is practicing today. However, some are left, some are right, some are centrist, and therefore there is a balance I don't agree with. Today, you have a particular ideology and a particular point of view of the government at the center which enjoys brute majority. And as a result, they wish to impose that ideology and their views on a large section of media, and for them to carry that point to every nook and corner of this country. My only submission here is that media should not become a carrier of the government line. Media should reflect the public sentiment and not toe the government
But
line.
Raghav, doesn't it cut both ways? Because, you are the opposition or at least the challenger in some of the states, but you're also incumbent now, you're government in two of these states. So does that not change? Is it just perpetual opposition or complaint against the media with the center? What about your governments? You also are in government now.
No, no, absolutely. And I mean, we witness both sides. When we are in opposition in states, we witness, as I say, the role of the media, and also in 1.5 or 2 states where we run successful governments. However, the larger point, Rishabh, is that today, rather than being a bloodhound for the opposition, it is important to be the watchdog for the government. I mean, we are not in power at the center. People who are not in power are being blamed for, issues like inflation, unemployment, so on and so forth, or transgressions by foreign countries into the Indian territory, rather than the government. So therefore, I think it's high time that a section of media which is practicing a different kind of journalism needs to speak truth to power.
No, there's no doubt that your positioning has evolved and the party is maturing in a different way, but there is opposition, and then there is opposition for opposition's sake. That just because the central government is doing it, we need to be critical of it. Is there a role in the media that if something good is happening, that as part of Team India, it should be able to applaud the good as well as
No,
negate the bad?
absolutely. If anything that is good that has happened, certainly the opposition and also the national media and all platforms of media must be constructive and appreciative of that. There is absolutely no doubt. And opposition for the sake of opposition is something that I personally and my party personally doesn't believe in. For example, I'll give you a recent example of recent past. When the Prime Minister launched the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, the first Chief Minister in the country, or the first political party to wholeheartedly support as well as participate in that Abhiyan, was my leader, Mr. Kejriwal, and my party, the Aam Aadmi Party. So therefore, if there is a constructive policy, something good is happening, it's incumbent upon us, on the opposition and on the media, to participate in that and to take the word forward. However, it is also important for a large section of media today to introspect. And I feel, as somebody who's been in opposition for a fairly long amount of time, who's been at the forefront of national media also in that sense when I have to represent my party, that a section of media is only looking for gaps and pitfalls for the opposition and not for the government, which was not the case previously. It is not, you certainly should correct the opposition, but those in power, those who control the levers of power, are more accountable and answerable.
No, the introspection is open to media for sure, for political parties. Your logics and strategies evolve, and I'm hoping evolution takes place on all fronts. But let's just change the tack, because media bashing has become a very common forte. It was perhaps during the first few days of the COVID lockdown that, as a country we realized that you can't wait on Twitter, you can't wait on a YouTube explaining video 1 week later, you have to watch live news. And there was a purpose and a role that was being served. So with the advent of the new generation of media, this concept of live TV and its importance, have we reinvigorated it a bit?
TV media is here to stay. TV media is certainly one form of media that has a potential to influence the minds of a significant part of our population, and the penetration of TV media is only increasing in this country. During COVID, of course, TV media played a very constructive role in the sense that they were able to drive home the awareness points vis-a-vis a pandemic or a raging pandemic. And that was certainly one of the biggest utilities of national media, and I certainly applaud all sections of media for that matter for their constructive role during
Okay,
COVID.
so now, Raghav, all parties, perhaps better than the media industry itself, yours and others, you have extensive social media teams and a social media outreach. Yet some of the worst excesses, both named and unnamed, happen on social media. Yet it's TV media that's generally bashed, but social media, criticism doesn't often come from politics.
Look, social media is a completely unregulated form of media. It's a place where everyone is free to express one's opinion. As long as people are using parliamentary language and are not crossing the line of decency, I think every opinion should be welcome. And I would say that while all of us are in public life, even editors, leading journalists like yourself are also in public life. And therefore, just the way we are open to criticism, journalists must also be open to some form of criticism.
Yeah, but I think it's something that we're all trying to understand. Raghav, let me take on the other tack, because I've seen in my career the evolution change in political parties. There was a time when you spoke to political leaders personally and invited them into debates. In TV channels, it's become centralized, and even in political parties, I think all, bar none almost, have become centralized. Uh, Oftentimes, it is junior spokespersons. Very rarely do we get to interact with members of parliament representing their parties on TV debates. I know the number of channels is increased. And in the centralized places, sometimes the party is not represented, the party is boycotting certain channels. How do we then have an effective debate if the parties themselves don't provide people who can make and argue their point well?
Look, first of all, I think parties that have a centralized mechanism of assigning spokespersons and panelists for several panel discussions and debates is a very good form of management. I think, and it is purely done by parties, particularly by my party, for optimum utilization of manpower of spokespersons, so that everyone, every channel or every platform where we are invited, we are adequately represented by an able spokesperson, number one. Number two, with those who become senior and those who get promoted, there are new entrants in every organization that must be given an opportunity to perform. And just how you have new anchors and new TV personalities coming up in your news channels every now and then, there are political parties where people join and they perform, and some outperform, and then they progress. As far as access of journalists to politicians is concerned, while senior members and MPs, so on and so forth, may have limited, some of them may have limited their media interactions. But that doesn't mean that the access of journalists to politicians or members of the government has reduced. I think that access is pretty much intact. It has perhaps only increased over the last few
No,
years.
but it's up to us to increase the quality of our debate, and it's also up to political parties to empower us to increase the quality of debate. And obviously, some people can argue the point better, but I know my time here is short, Raghav. Uh, in essence, what is the job that you perceive of media? Are we supposed to just be critical of government, primarily central government, or is there a constructive nation-building role also to be played here?
Without referring to being critical of central government or being favorable to opposition, let me say this, that it is incumbent upon media today to put forward news and not noise, to put forward sense and not sensationalism, to put forward journalism, not jingoism. And unfortunately, a large section, and I'm saying this without hesitation, that a section of media today, unfortunately, has, from being a journalist, has today become a propagandist of the government. There's no point in becoming a cheerleader of the government, because once you do that, while you may enjoy certain brownie points with the powers that be, you are deteriorating your own credibility. And as a result, just how people in this country used to say, and perhaps say this even today, and that led to the formation of a new political startup, a clean, upright startup like my party. That perception was कि नेता चोर हैं, सब नेता चोर हैं. Now that perception is slowly moving towards media बिका हुआ है, media बिका हुआ है, media बिका हुआ है. And you hear this very often when you interact with the people at the grassroots level, कि जी media बिका हुआ है. So therefore, I think it is extremely important on your part, on the part of NBF and several media agencies and outlets to course correct and to ensure that this idea or this notion that people today have is
no
undone.
doubt introspection is good, but it's the political parties only who say, no, media bikawa and convince their followers. But I know we are out of time. There are sessions planned. I know you have a flight to catch. Raghav, Chadda, ladies and gentlemen, let's have a big round of applause. Thank you very much for taking a few straight questions.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Rishabh. Thank you, Raghav. Rishabh and Raghav, thank you for that. Ladies and gentlemen, just want to give a loud shout out to the official broadcast and technology partner for this event. They are LiveView and Lamhas. LiveView is the #1 choice for the live news and dynamic sports coverage by almost all broadcasters worldwide.